This episode is brought to you by Verizon. Get a Verizon Business Unlimited plan from the network businesses rely on. Hey, Monica, with 5G Ultra Wideband in many more cities, you get up to 10 times the speed at no extra cost.
Hello, downloads in no time.
Plus, unlimited premium data and hotspot data to keep the signal flowing and your teams going. Come in or book an appointment with a Verizon business expert to find the right plan for your team. 5G Ultra Wideband available in over 1,700 cities with Business Unlimited Pro 2.0 smartphone plan. Speed comparison is to median Verizon 4G LTE speeds. Download speeds may vary depending upon network and coverage conditions and content optimization for 5G Ultra Wideband.
Sometimes you need to take control to make a difference. That's why with FlexPath from Capella University, you're in control. Set your own deadlines and leverage your experience to move at a pace that works for you. Discover a different way forward at capella.edu.
Hello and welcome to SEO 101 on WMR.FM, episode number 434. This is Ross Dunn, CEO of Stepforth Web Marketing, and my co-host is my company senior SEO, Scott Venack. Well, our kids are just about at school, eh?
Emma's done tomorrow, I think, is her last day.
Yes, mine are
Jealous.
tomorrow as well. Yeah,
it's my last day too. I'll be back in September. Sorry for the bad notice.
Nice. I missed those days. Of course, at the time, we didn't really understand just how awesome it was. At the beginning, we did, but remember, like halfway through the summer, you'd be bored silly sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes, but what I would give to be bored silly these days, it just doesn't happen. And not even just work stuff. It's like life is just crazy. Everything in life is just busy.
Yeah, this is our heyday of lots of stuff to do, and yeah. Anyway, well, there is a lot to share. It's been a busy couple of weeks with SMX Advanced having happened, and it was a free one this year, which had countless people, I'm sure, attending. I wonder just how many people who signed up actually went and used it.
What are you hinting at, Ross?
Well, I know many of my crew were signed up but didn't use it. That will hopefully change, but it's just so typical, when something's free, you're like, I'll get to it. But when you pay for it, it is a little different.
Last year we paid for it, and I sat through the whole 2 days worth of seminars and did it in real time. And this year it was free, and I'll go to the website soon and I'll check it out. And I know for sure I will. We've got, I think, till the end of August for those that have signed up and not gone yet. You got till the end of August to access all the material, and I'll do it 100%. I'll do it, but I'm definitely procrastinating a little.
Yeah, no, don't get me wrong. I only listened to one of them. I only watched one. One was particularly interesting to me, but and it was about how to prepare for Google Analytics 4, and mostly I was just looking for anything I didn't already know, because we've done fairly extensive research on it, but and there wasn't much we didn't know, but it's always encouraging to listen to another expert and make sure that they know what they're doing too. Or not what they're doing, but what we're doing is right. Anyway, it was good. It was a good, and SMX Advanced was, probably will soon be again, my number one attending conference, the one I didn't actually attend. It's lost a little of its luster, because it was one of the few times I got to see John. And he's not going to those anymore, unfortunately. All right, well, so we'll start off with a little non-SEO news. Twitter, of all things. Tell us a little about this.
Yeah, and this, I think it might have some implications for SEO, maybe, but I figured I'd include it. So Twitter has launched, or is about to launch, something that's the first of its kind in social media, allowing people to do product drops for merchants. So this kind of confused me at first, and I had to read through it, but this is how it's going to work. Basically, if you are an e-commerce site, you can put up a tweet about an upcoming product launch, whether it be a new product or something that's going to be back in stock that's maybe been unavailable for a while. And a remind me button will show up in that tweet. And then your followers can click that remind me button to be reminded of when that product becomes back in stock. And they can also learn more about the details of the launch, price, description, whatever you want to put in there. And then after they click the remind me button, they will get a push notification 15 minutes before, and then again at the time of the product drop. And and then that notification will have a link directly to the shopping page on the merchant's website, where you can then go and purchase a product. And this one kind of resonated with me a little bit, because I've been trying to get a PlayStation 5 for my son, and definitely not for myself at all. And it was impossible because if anyone's out there aware of PS5s right now, they're impossible to get. And anyway, so I'd been following this guy on Twitter, and he would post every time they made product available at Walmart or Costco or wherever. But by the time you click on the link, usually the product was already sold out because there was that delay between the e-commerce site and this particular Twitter feed. Well, I did manage to get one, so that was cool. But it took a long time and a lot of tries. But this will actually help expedite that because you're going to get it directly from, say, Walmart when they want to launch a new one. You know it's going to be there when you click the not the remind me button, the notification. So I think that could be pretty good for a lot of these e-commerce sites. But I was thinking about it from another perspective, and that's if you're trying to build your Twitter following. And if you are selling a product that's really high in demand and hard to get, you could have a link, follow us on Twitter to be notified instantly, and put that on your out of stock page. Or if you have a press release or something about a product launch that's coming out, you can put a link to your Twitter within the product launch press release. And people might try to follow you in order to help get these product drops. So I don't know. I think that could be leveraged a bit there for social media. So not
Excellent.
really an SEO thing, but I think there is some overlap there.
Yeah, and typically, I think it's a good thing to add for the show, because typically this kind of thing does really well at the beginning, and then when people get bored with it, it doesn't. So taking advantage of it immediately, there's always some risk involved, but I think minimal in this case, and you might be able to ride the wave. So if you have any kind of e-commerce, check this out. Definitely.
I would say, especially if you already have a strong Twitter following, it might be pretty beneficial. So
awesome. All right, into SEO news, there was an article I read the other day from The Atlantic. It's called "The Open Secret of Google Search." Now, what I guess triggered it was the author's own experience trying to find information, which he found full of garbage, really kind of auto-generated or seemingly auto-generated pages, maybe created by AI, whatever. As it turned out, it might be other things, but it just wasn't very good quality, and he wasn't impressed. And then I guess he found this article by DKB, Brereton, I believe his name is. Anyways, I'll post a link within our notes, our show notes. And it talks about how Google search is dying. I'll just make that note here, is dying. And he talks about how, this other person talks about how, if you want to find something and you want a really decent answer, type the search and then add Reddit at the end. He says that's where you'll find a lot of the great stuff. And he's dead serious. And I can't fault him for that. There's a lot of times where I'm looking for something and I'm sent to Reddit. So it really is a great platform. And again, wish John was here for this, because Reddit was part of the company he worked with. It's actually one of their properties. So I'm sure he would have had interesting things to add. But it is another good article. I haven't read all of it, but what I've read, I've liked. I want to look at it. It's a pretty scathing review of Google these days. It was written on February 15th. But back to the main article here that was just launched a couple days ago, The Open Secret of Google Search. Having all of this information in tow, he launches into kind of this rant. Well, the Atlantic writers are really good, so it's not so much a rant, but he gets into why it seems to be true that the open secret of Google search is that it is dying, or that it's just not as good quality. Of course, thankfully, he didn't just leave it at that. He got into some interesting stories from people who are SEOs, interesting stories from other people who've tried to use Google, etc. But one of the ones, my favorites, was a guy by the name of Verbit. I don't know if that was a pseudonym. I can't remember, but talks about his quote unquote soul crushing job at the Hoth. Now that's HOTH in capitals. It's an SEO company that has been controversial in the past. They, I would say, are not white hat from what I've seen. In other words, they probably go into the gray area to perhaps black. I don't know about that. I'm not going to put my word on that. But I've heard enough times that people don't like using them. Some people do. And in this case, Verbit worked for them. And he said he wrote posts that sounded robotic or like they were written by somebody who just discovered language. And this is also a quote from the article. He had to write up to 10 posts a day on subjects he knew nothing about. Quickly, he started repurposing old posts for other clients' blogs. Quote, those posts that sounded like an AI wrote them, sometimes they're from real people trying to jam in as many keywords as possible, unquote, Verbit told me. He ended up quitting the job after a year, and he described the industry of search gaming as a house of cards. Those are his own words, a house of cards. And I want to get back to that in a second. Now, thankfully, they did ask Danny Sullivan at Google. I'll never get used to saying that. Okay, well, I'll quote him again here. Quote, Sullivan believes that some of the recent frustrations with Google search actually reflect just how good it's become. And this is Danny speaking. We search for things today we didn't imagine we could search for 15 years ago, and we believe we'll find exactly what we want, he said. Our expectations have continued to grow, so we demand more of the tool. And the author says, well, it's an interesting, albeit convenient response. And Marie Haynes, one of the better writers and interesting SEOs out there, I like her content and stuff, talks about how the younger generation is searching really differently these days. And they almost speak to Google like it's a person. And it's true. It's a good point. I see my kids doing that all the time. They ask conversationally a question, whereas we think in keywords, or, I mean, we're still getting better results, I think. But Google is adapting to that next generation. And it's an important point. What does that mean for SEO? That's an whole nother debate. I don't think it's a big deal. And I guess that comes back to the question, is SEO a house of cards? Is this all going to fall apart? And I was talking to Scott about this, and let's jump into it now. What do you think, Scott?
SEO has definitely evolved a lot in my 20 years, and it will evolve a lot more, but there's always going to be the need for SEO. I guess AI has its place, and AI is evolving, and I don't want to say that a computer is going to steal my job someday, but I guess that is a possibility. But even that, it's still SEO. It's something doing it. You need somebody to direct the AI on what you want to have done. There's always SEO. There's always keywords, even if you're not optimizing for a keyword. You have to have the language and the concept and the theme
English.
Or
whatever language. It's got to have some subjective theme.
Exactly. And if people are searching to say like, hey Google, can you order me a pizza from that place I like? And Google's got to figure it all out from there, as opposed to me saying order a pepperoni pizza from such and such. The way you search, sure, that's going to change, but that would change the way you place content on a website and the type of content you have and all the things, right? There's always going to be some level of hands-on work needed. I just don't see how it could ever collapse and be unnecessary.
That was a good example you gave, though, and it does actually pose some problems. I mean, if Google becomes that good at just understanding what a person wants based on their past experiences, then what it in a sense makes it true is that if someone has found a particular product or company and they buy from them, maybe more than once, your chances of being, if you were promoting a competitor, your chances of that competitor showing up again is going to be almost nil, because they're going to go with what you've done before. Now, Google's going to monetize it somehow so that competitor can still get in there. This is that's the way they make their money. But from an SEO perspective, it could get much more difficult, and it'll just mean that all your money is going to be laid on that first search, and that first, trying to take away business from someone is going to get a lot harder. Really, it's just going to be up to them making mistakes, I guess. One thing, though, you mentioned was about AI, and I thought this was pretty funny. I had no idea about this, and it's another article worth reading that they linked to from this. This is a quote. The problematic effects of increased AI inference over time are easy to imagine. And he says, while I was writing this article, a Google researcher went viral claiming he'd been placed on administrative leave after notifying the company that one of its AI chatbots, powered by different technology, had become sentient although the company disagrees, unquote. And, reading the article, it's a little creepy. What his job was to do was to actually analyze the content coming out of this chatbot to make sure that it wasn't racist or biased based on the content it has, and like racially biased, or I forget the other one, but there's a lot of different biases that can cause problems. And he actually had this conversation with it, and it had changed his own mind about a particular opinion he had. And he was just awestruck by it. And he felt like he was talking to a real person. So yeah, he's gone all out. He did get put on administrative leave before this, but because he said this, which is weird. I don't know why. He must have been very passionate about it. And then he decided to go public. Anywho, it's fascinating stuff, all this. And AI's, I don't think we can conceive of what it's going to do. Very much. This is going to be a game changer when it kicks in, and if something does become sentient,
who knows? You've always got people who have to flip burgers and deal with the fryer. I guess I could always do that. if I have to, I'll find something to do. But I'm not holding my breath.
Well,
not packing my bags.
It was a really good article. Highly recommend people read it. The Open Secret of Google Search. I don't agree with everything in it, but that's a sign of a good article. It's supposed to be a mix. All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about Twitter and a fairly big change in how it's linking.
SEO 101 will be back right after recess.
Welcome back to SEO 101 on WMR.FM, hosted by myself, Ross Dunn, CEO of Stepforth Web Marketing, and my company's senior SEO, Scott Fenak. What's happened at Twitter?
Yeah, so your links count now. Can you imagine that? So Twitter has removed the nofollow attribute from links found in tweets and bio links and other links. I don't know what other links there would be, but whatever other links there are no more nofollows on them. So Twitter, they added the nofollow back in 2009 to bio links, and then about a year later added them to include tweets and other sections. And last week, I think it was, I guess it was about 2 weeks ago, so around June 10th or so, they removed the nofollow. So that's, I don't know, that could end up being a big deal. I suspect that there's a possibility Google will still treat them as nofollow links.
That's what I think.
Yeah, even though they're not technically nofollow, I think that's probably what will happen. But I also have to wonder what negative repercussions this might have on Twitter, because now you're going to get the spammers like, hey, these are do follow links now. Are we going to see this onslaught of new Twitter accounts and link spamming and all that kind of stuff for people that think maybe Google will follow the links and count them for SEO? Maybe.
There's always going to be a moron or two out there. But I figure ultimately Google's going to make up its own mind. Some may be followed. Some of them may count as credit. But ultimately, I think they would stick with the status quo. I believe they were only taking it as a hint.
Yeah.
We talked about that, I don't know how many times over the years, but nofollow just seemed to be a really weird thing to add. It was them trying to push their agenda on people. Put the nofollow on so you can prove to us that you know our rules and that you aren't trying to manipulate us. Do your own job and figure it out.
They really did it to try to kill monetization of websites. I think that's why they did it. But
they tried, and I'm sure it did. Well, I know it did damage a lot of things, but anyway, it was quite a mess, and it's interesting to see this. I wonder what kind of research has come out already for this.
I didn't find anything new since Barry. I think it was Barry was it Barry? I think it was Barry that posted the article about it. That was about 12 days ago. I didn't dig super deep for it, but I didn't find anything else. But yeah. It kind of surprises me though. Like Google will probably continue to treat them as no follow, and there will probably be no fallout from this. But why would Twitter remove it? Like they had to have made a conscious decision to remove the no follow. I wonder why. Like it'd be interesting to find out what their reasons were to that. If they just think it doesn't matter. I don't know. It seems like a strange move without any kind of reason.
It does. So Google, on the next story here, Google's been testing new featured snippet layouts. We've actually got two segments here on snippets, and they're really messing with stuff. These are, again, just examples of work in the wild, them testing things. I don't believe we were able to emulate any of these, make them happen for us. It's not uncommon in Canada here. But who knows? Again, this stuff's being tested. I don't like what I see. In this case, up to 4 snippets are being shown in a single search result on mobile. That's a crammed piece of poo. I don't need to see that, man. Just go with one. They were so tight. I couldn't get the entire title. I don't know. The whole thing didn't look nice. I'm hoping that's not something they're going to stick with. It's a grid type format, 2x2. Meh.
It did really look ugly. Yeah, there were two. Most of them were like you said, that 2x2 grid. Some were above each other, just like a normal result kind of. But it's annoying. Like in the example at Search Engine Land, the example they used was, can you give Allegra to dogs? And in all 4 of I don't know why we're laughing about that.
I didn't think of that.
You're making me laugh, man.
I forgot that human stuff could do that.
Yeah, in all 4 of the examples or of the featured snippets, everything's truncated with the ... So like the answer is truncated, the link title is truncated. So it actually makes a featured snippet almost useless. You've got to click to the site. Although I guess if you're the site owner with that snippet, that's a good thing. But if you just want to find your answer in Google and not have to click through to a website, you're not finding it, So I feel like there's not a lot of value in it. I guess it's great.
Just rotate the snippets.
Yeah, I would think that would be better.
Maybe 2, and just rotate them on loads.
I guess
which one's most important.
If you've never had the featured snippet, now suddenly you're part of that 2x2 card pack or whatever you want to call it. I guess that's good.
I guess.
But as a searcher, from that perspective, it's just a mess, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we're relying on Google to give us a good suggestion, and they're actually pretty good at it for the snippets, I find. I'm happy to take a chance on that one. I don't want to be given multiple options. I just don't. I do believe there's probably use cases where it would be helpful. I can't see them right now.
Hey, it's Brasco on the radio. Here at WMR.FM, I can't tell you how many times our team's always trying to find the best way to collaborate, take care of project management, and work with all the apps and social media platforms and everything all in one. And then came Zapier, Zapier.com, Zapier. Let me tell you about it. Zapier helps marketers make the most out of all the technology you use, and you use a lot just like we do. All your apps, routine tasks, your workflow, everything's converted with less chaos, all in one place. So I signed up at Zapier.com. It showed me basically every platform out there that I could go and choose from that I needed help with to go ahead and connect and organize. So everything Google Drive, Slack, then I have people using Skype, I have people using Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn. We like using automation and to have all the Google Sheets and Gmail all set together in one place. I love the idea of having this all together so I can go ahead and make life easier, because once I can get through my workload and put it all in one place like Zapier, then I can finish my day earlier. So you need to see for yourself why teams at Airtable, Dropbox, HubSpot, Zendesk, and thousands of other companies use Zapier every day to automate their businesses. You could try Zapier for free today like I did. Go to the website, Zapier.com/SEO101. That's Zapier SEO 101. Hey, it's Brasco on the radio. Here at WMR.FM, I can't tell you how many times our team's always trying to find the best way to collaborate, take care of project management, and work with all the apps and social media platforms and everything all in one. And then came Zapier, Zapier.com, Zapier. Let me tell you about it. Zapier helps marketers make the most out of all the technology you use, and you use a lot just like we do. All your apps, routine tasks, your workflow, everything's converted with less chaos, all in one place. So I signed up at Zapier.com. It showed me basically every platform out there that I could go and choose from that I needed help with to go ahead and connect and organize. So everything Google Drive, Slack, then I have people using Skype, I have people using Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn. We like using automation and to have all the Google Sheets and Gmail all set together in one place. I love the idea of having this all together so I can go ahead and make life easier, because once I can get through my workload and put it all in one place like Zapier, then I can finish my day earlier. So you need to see for yourself why teams at Airtable, Dropbox, HubSpot, Zendesk, and thousands of other companies use Zapier every day to automate their businesses. You could try Zapier for free today like I did. Go to the website, Zapier.com/SEO101. That's Zapier.com/SEO101.
Knows there's a lot of searches they do there. They got a few happening.
No kidding, right?
Yeah. What's the next one? It's a brand story. Well, what the heck? Brand story boxes.
Yeah, so it doesn't really have a name. And Barry was in his post saying, I guess I'll call it a brand story snippet, but it's not really a thing. And it was for a branded search. And I don't have it in front of me. I can find it in about 2 seconds. Where is it here? For Zara, Zara, which I feel like maybe I've lived under a rock. I have no idea what this company is, but apparently I should know.
Adding fragrances and tableware, etc.
Yeah, I guess I don't buy a lot of fragrances. That's probably why I didn't know it.
Not in the States.
Yeah, I guess. So if you do a search at Google for Zara or Zara, however you say it, Zara, you get their normal listing like you would be used to seeing. And then there are 2 rows of 4 I guess brand story snippets where you've got a thumbnail, a little square image thumbnail, a title, and a tiny logo and the link with the brand. So for instance, one of them is their social link. It links to their Facebook page. One is to an article on Fortune. It's mostly news stories that are brand specific. And I haven't seen this in the wild. Barry even noted in his story that he hasn't seen it in the wild. So, and he's in the States, I'm assuming. Yeah, he's like New York, isn't he? We're in Canada and we haven't really seen it. So it's obviously something that's in a testing phase and not fully rolled out anywhere, I don't think. I guess, it's unlike the previous featured snippet thing that we talked about. I think this is probably good because if you're searching for a brand, anything non-brand related is kind of irrelevant to your search.
I don't like it when titles that add a lot of context are cut off.
Yeah.
These ones aren't so bad in this example. Like Zara is closing more than 1,000 ...
What are they closing?
Bathrooms? I don't know.
Oh no, that's going to be a problem.
And another one is their home, their Facebook home. Another one, Zara head designer under fire, blah, blah, blah. So it's not horrible, but these are all desktop experiences. I don't see a mobile version. So
that's a good point. There is no mobile snippet here. So it could be really ugly on mobile. Yeah,
if even possible. It might just look like what we saw with the other snippet, the new featured snippet layouts with 4. Yeah, it might just be too cluttered.
This ties in a bit as well to the conversation we had with Mike Blumenthal 3 or 4 episodes ago about images, and we're seeing 8 thumbnail images here, and those images have to come from somewhere, and it all comes down to your image optimization and your open graph tags and your structured markup. And it reinforces the importance of having good imagery on your website, because if you want it to be chosen as one of these, if you're one of these news sites and you don't have a featured image associated with that article, you might not get the spot, but that might be the make it or break it to getting extra exposure with brand related stuff. If if you're producing content that is related to other brands.
And creating multiple versions of a particular image for social sharing is important, and a pain in the arse.
Yep.
I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. But it's a necessary evil, especially if you've got any kind of news-based site or e-commerce that content will be shared or whatever it may be. So keep that in mind. And it might be some trial and error as these things are just being rolled out, or in this case, tested, not officially rolled out. So, but the ones we saw, it looked like the images were fairly well scaled and cropped. I've seen some pretty horrifying crops and scales though before. One of the ones I saw one day was it cropped down to like someone's junk. It just, I don't need to see that. And I bet the owner of that was pretty embarrassed. Yeah.
That sentient AI is really trying to play tricks on us, isn't it?
Yeah.
We'll just play dumb. It's just my AI, but I know what I'm doing.
And this next bit had me laughing. You put it down here, but hyphens. Okay, so when you're doing SEO and you've set up, let's say you're using WordPress or something, you can set up a permalink structure. In other words, you can specify how when new pages are added, this is how the address or the URL will look. And you can put underscores or hyphens between words if you want the words to show up. Well, in classic Google fashion, Matt Cutts told us to use hyphens back in 2007. In 2016, John Mueller said that underscores versus dashes do not matter. And now, in 2022, Gary East says to use hyphens.
What do I do?
Yeah, I've never liked underscores simply because in a URL, when URLs are naturally underlined, the blue links you see. So if you have an underscore, the underscores disappear. You just see a gap. It's like a space instead of a character showing up, and it looks awful. That's mainly why I stick with hyphens, and they just seem to make sense to me. So stick with hyphens. I don't see a reason why it's a big deal.
It's funny how this topic gets brought up every now and then, and here we are bringing it up, but I didn't start it because it's been, I think one of the first SEO things, like the day you hired me, I learned two things that day: how to file a paper version of a contract and to not use underscores. Like those are the two things. And man, I can do a mean filing job. You give me some paper contracts. I don't even know. Do you even print them out anymore? Probably not.
No,
we don't even have paper anymore. What is paper? And don't use underscores. And you don't see it a lot, but every now and then I still come across clients where they're using underscores or spaces. I feel like underscores are worse.
Spaces are the worst.
But yeah, they're both terrible.
That's terrifying.
Yeah. But use hyphens. Google's flip-flopped on it a little bit here, but they're back to hyphens. So don't use underscores ever, really, never.
Yeah. And again, I'm sure if you went back to the time when we heard about this, we were chuckling about it too, saying that stick with hyphens. I mean, yeah, it's just how things are. Local SEO. This is just a little note here, but Google has added, and so in Google business profiles, if you've got a local business and you've signed up and you've created your Google business profile, which you should, there are certain classifications or attributes in this case that you can add to your profile. One might be wheelchair accessible or bathroom on site for client guests only, whatever. But one of the new ones they've just added is LGBTQ. And the idea here is that if someone has this on there, maybe that's more appealing to a specific type of searcher. I think it's great. Have it in there. One of the ones that what I don't like is when they use the attribute to enforce a negative. And they say someone goes around and starts adding an attribute to people's profiles saying not LGBTQ. It's like, what are you trying to say? That's the reverse. Well, and also I get ones not women run. That's one someone kept adding to mine. I'm like, kept removing. I'm like, why does that matter? Put in women run if it is women run, but why not? Anyway, it just annoys me. It's a bit of the Wild West out there. I'm not sure if they're allowing that anymore, but it's good to see, though. I think this is a great addition. Our one local SEO news point. Woohoo!
Hey, it's more than last week.
And you are the king here. You talked to John Mueller.
I'm the Mueller file this week. Yeah. So basically, I wanted some reassurance that I was correct about something. And sometimes it's nice to reach out to somebody who can, well, although based on the hyphen thing, I don't know if I trust John as much anymore. But we had a client and we found that a bunch of this is a newer client. It's not like I have missed this for years on end. A bunch of their inbound links were pointing to a non-secure, non-triple W version of their homepage and then being 301 redirected as they should be. And my request to the client is that they work on getting these links changed so that they skip the redirect. And I kind of wanted some reassurance on how important this is. And so I went to Twitter like so many people do, and I asked John, not expecting a response. And I said, is full credit given to inbound links that travel through a 301 redirect? For example, http site.com links to http here.com, but that 301 redirects to https www.here.com. How important is it to fix these source links? And I know it's important, but this is what John's response was. He basically confirmed my thoughts and he said, I wouldn't see it as full credit or not, but rather as mentioned in our docs. I guess I should have read the docs right before I asked him and looked for this specific item. It's a good practice for any move to update the important old links to point to the right new pages. So it's nice. He verified what I wanted. So when I go to the client and say, I want you to do this, but also John Mueller also wants you to do this, maybe the client will be more likely to do it. So if you have, and the main reason I wanted reassurance in this case is this particular client of ours has a lot of very good links, like very, very good links that are pointing to the wrong version. So really it's not just random people blogging about them, which not that that's bad. There's some high power links that we want to get changed. So I wanted to back it up more than just like I say do it. I wanted someone else to say that as well. So, but yeah, so there you go. If you've got inbound links from high quality sources that are then redirected, either put content there or get those links changed if you can.
Yeah, and if you can't, it's not the end of the world. So don't stress out. It's, it is being passed along. It's just it loses a little bit here and there in terms of that authority. So it's always ideal to have no redirects. That's it.
Absolutely.
Okay, a couple of questions. A longer show today, but I want to get to them this time. So we have one from Engraved. It's a business. It says, if a highly regarded website links multiple times to your website, is there a number of inbound links that are too many from one domain? Meaning, will it be damaging to your website page rankings if you get to make inbounds, even if it's a good site?
If you get too many,
Unquote.
It should be.
Too many inbounds if it's a good site. So my quick answer is that I try to think about it as per domain. So if I get 100 links from one particular website, unless it's something absolutely astronomical, like if I got 100 links from Forbes, yeah, those are great. Those are going to be super valuable. Yeah. From an average website, though, pick the best page, the one with the most authority, and I bet you that's the only one that's really going to be giving you much benefit. What are your thoughts, Scott?
No, I totally agree with that. And I don't think there's necessarily a bad thing with getting too many links from a site. If you're getting a site-wide link from somebody, naturally you're not paying for it, and you're getting maybe even millions of links from one website. I don't think you're getting extra value out of that. I don't think it's something to be super excited about, but I don't think you're going to be harmed by that, unless of course it says sponsored link and it's obviously a paid link and you're trying to do some gray hat SEO type stuff. I think you're fine. But generally, one or two links, as long as the content is quality, is really all you need.
Yeah, there was a time when people would give crap to website design companies for putting a link to their website in the bottom of footer of every single page on all their client sites, because there was a perception that was a way of link scamming. Like they were trying to get backlinks and it was driving up rankings. Well, the fact was at that time it did help. Yep. So it did look bad, but it doesn't help anymore. I mean, it's not a big deal. I mean, I wouldn't say it doesn't help at all, but I would say that Google's smart enough to now see the difference and disqualify the value of some of those links on its own recognizance, I guess is how you say it. Anyway, it's just plain smarter. And I don't worry about that stuff anymore.
I would say too, though, if you are getting extra links from a website, there are situations where having more than one link would be helpful. Like, let's say Forbes is a great example. If you've got a really high power site linking to you and they write an article about a certain service you offer or a product you sell, and then later on they write another article about a different service or different product, and you end up getting multiple links pointing to different products and service offerings from different pages or articles or whatever from these authority sites, there's still value in that. So if you have one link from one article in Forbes, I don't know that I would say give up and don't try to get others, because others could still be, like, oh, I've got one, I don't need another one. So I wouldn't stop at one if you have opportunities to get more, but I wouldn't push for site-wide links in a sidebar or something, because I don't think there's any value in that. I think they've got to be contextual and, inline links, as we would say, to really have any kind of good value.
Well, and also remember the golden rule is not about search. I mean, hopefully you're on a website that actually has traffic and the people are reading the article and come and check you out and like what you're doing and hire you or buy your product or whatever it might be. So getting those extra links, or in this case, writing for a magazine, online magazine, or being written about, it's all good press, man, unless it's bad press.
That's right.
Next question is from Jeremy Ginsburg. He says, I know what Google's stance on AI generated content is, but I'm curious to know what others in the group think about it. I didn't get a chance to look at some of the comments, but I thought interesting ad. I mean, we've kind of talked about AI generated content today, but not really our opinion on it. What's your first thought there, Scott? I've got a couple ideas, but
I'm not against it by any stretch. If you can get AI generated content, providing you proofread it before just dumping it on your website, and you make sure it's well written and it applies and it's relevant. I mean, I know Google doesn't necessarily like it, but I don't really see why not. As long as it is good and relevant and not just filler fluff, I would be okay with it. It just seems economically sensible if you're able to generate that content.
Yeah.
And it's good.
Whether or not that's something that's naturally going to happen right now, there's the jury's out. There's a lot of issues with AI generated content still. I've seen examples where it's great. Well, pretty good anyway. But that's definitely not the norm in my experience. So my stance is that it may have its place soon. It will have its place soon and already is being used. But I mean, in terms of quality and something people want to see, it may have its place soon. It's just that I question its value. Since if it's not being written by a person, what's the purpose of it? Is it just to add more content to a site? Or is it actually there to add value? And at that point, is that better done by a person at this stage? It's an interesting concept, the whole thing. When I've seen it done right, I'd be actually quite happy to have it on my website. I think FAQs, all that kind of stuff, I think it'd be great. Some of this filler stuff that we have to have on our website that's a bit tedious to do. It'd be fantastic if it could get AI to rewrite this stuff for us or keep note of the questions that come into our email and then add the new question automatically to our website or whatever. This sort of stuff would be really cool. And I can see a lot of usages for it, but the jury's still out on just how worthwhile it is when you can still do much better yourself.
I had noted, have AI generate the content, then you go back in and fix it. But there might be the flip side of that is you create content and then give it to the AI and say, make this better. Because not everybody's a writer. Like I can write reasonably well, but I'm not the best. And if I could create whether it be a blog post or whatever, several paragraphs to maybe a few thousand words, piece of content, and I get it to a point where I think it's really good and then have an AI fix it and just tweak it and improve it, you're going to get the content that you want, but your grammar and maybe your reading level, maybe you need to bring the reading level down or up or something, and AI can help you fix it and improve it, but not fully create it. I think that maybe there's a place there.
Yeah. And we're taking the leap here thinking you're talking about content in the form of articles and blog posts. There are different types of AI content.
Visual, yeah.
Yeah, one of my coaches, she actually uses a tool that kind of blew my mind, and it blew her mind. She's using it all the time now. She puts in essentially what she wants to say from a marketing standpoint, and it comes out with advertising text that she says is as good as what I could write, and it's done. She just copies and pastes. And I saw her do it. She ran it through me. I was kind of disbelieving it. And I got to say, it was good. It's amazing. And it actually gets to know how you write. So it speaks almost as though it's in your voice. It's a little creepy how well it works. You know,
another really good example, and this is, I learned about this website actually through SMX Advanced last year. And it's reminded me of it. And the website is this dash, they're using dashes, not underscores. This dash person dash this person does not exist.com with dashes between all the words.
Okay. Yeah.
And it generates a photo of a person, like a headshot, but it's not a real person. It's just like a totally made up by AI. And if you go there, I can't tell the difference. Like, no. I would never know it's not a real face.
Yeah. And sometimes it doesn't do so well, and you can, but I remember that there were some that were difficult.
But that might be great, because rather than going to, because that's AI generated content, and rather than going to iStock Photo, I don't know if you can use these photos legally that are auto generated, but having that type of tool so you could get photos of people for your website, which are often tough to get if you don't have people to take pictures of. There might be a place for that type of content, just as like graphical support on your site.
There's actually an example connected to that article. Is Google dying? The open secret of Google search. There's a connected article about the AI. That guy who's saying it, he found that this chatbot had become sentient. Anyway, and they talk about, and I can't remember the name of it, but one of Google's current efforts, and I have seen the results, it can actually create images based on the keywords, and they're amazing. Like, it's stunning. So that's a really good use case for stock photography. In this case, they can literally generate that image, and it's mind-blowing. You put like a duck dancing and it'll do a duck dancing, like however you imagine it. It may not be exactly, but it'll do what it thinks is a duck dancing. And it's astonishing how quickly it can do it and how well it does. It's amazing. Anyway, we could talk about AI for days and days. There's so much going on with it. I'm fascinated by it.
Kidding.
Never keep up on it, actually, but there's just too much. So on behalf of myself, Ross Dunn, CEO of Step Forth Web Marketing, and my company, Senior SEO, Scott Van Ack, thank you for joining us today. Remember, we have a show notes newsletter you can sign up for at SEO101radio.com. Don't miss a single link, and refresh your memory of a past show at any time. Have a great week, and remember to tune into future episodes, which air twice a month on WMR.FM.
Yeah, thanks. And in an effort to sound less grumpy, thank you for listening, everybody. And just know that we do appreciate you.
The opinions expressed on this program are those of the guests and hosts and do not necessarily reflect those of WebmasterRadio.fm's management or sponsors. Any rebroadcast or redistribution without authorized consent of WebmasterRadio.fm is prohibited.
By now, you know that sound. It's the sound of the Home Depot. But what about those sounds? Those are the sounds of ice from LG's exclusive slow-melting craft ice for better-tasting drinks, making this the sound of savings on top brand appliances. The Home Depot. How doers get more done. Get up to 25% off plus $750 instant savings on select LG appliances. Valid June 22nd through July 13th, U.S. only. Gas range extra. See store for details.
This episode is brought to you by Verizon. Get a Verizon Business Unlimited plan from the network businesses rely on. Hey, Monica, with 5G Ultra Wideband in many more cities, you get up to 10 times the speed at no extra cost.
Hello, downloads in no time.
Plus, unlimited premium data and hotspot data to keep the signal flowing and your teams going. Come in or book an appointment with a Verizon business expert to find the right plan for your team. 5G Ultra Wideband available in over 1,700 cities with Business Unlimited Pro 2.0 smartphone plan. Speed comparison is to median Verizon 4G LTE speeds. Download speeds may vary depending upon network and coverage conditions and content optimization for 5G Ultra Wideband.